Sure. Okay, so today we're talking with Whitney Storey, who is an instructor and a licensed professional counselor, I believe.
Just still provisionally licensed professional.
Provisionally licensed
Because
counselor.
it's the part-time gig, so it's going to take me a little longer to get fully licensed.
I see. So first of all, tell us about your education.
So way back in the day, my undergrad degree is actually, I have a bachelor in science and education, and I was certified K through 12 to do theater and art, and was working on a math certification next. So my idea was always that like education would be a good way to help people, and in theory, sure, until I got into the school system and realized that all of my time was spent on lesson planning and not so much any of the helping that I really wanted to do. So after a brief existential crisis, applied to the psychology program at UL and was accepted. And so earned a master's of science in education or in psychology. And then later went on to get an additional master's in counselor education from UL as well. So definitely feel much better about being able to help people, but also I really still love teaching. So this is the best of both worlds where I've ended up.
That's wonderful. And who are your mentors?
Oh man. So in the master's program, I mean, Dr. Sandoz was a big influence with her. She came into the department as a faculty member, as a professor, in my second year of the grad program. So it was like the perfect time where I was getting into like seeing clients and dealing with my own like anxiety and stuff. So diving into ACT with her and kind of experiencing ACT as like a human, looking to do better as a human, and also being able to use it with clients was very nice. So Dr. Sandoz, Dr. Perkins, I feel like he's like such a fabulous teacher that I've always really admired his ability to like, you know, just be him in the room with students. And I really like that. So they were my big ones. And then in the counseling department, Dr. Mark Bourgeois is like just so good at groups. And I really found myself loving group and really appreciating his clinical expertise when it came to, you know, doing group and teaching group. And so he was a big influence there too.
Excellent. And when did you become part of the psychology department of the faculty here?
So I lucked out and I got I think it was just a one semester TA position when I was in, I think it was my last semester of the master's program. And that transitioned into an adjunct position where I taught, I think just one class for a while. I was also teaching some classes at SLCC. And then over time, was in the right spot at the right time with the right experience where an instructor position opened up. And I was able to become a full-time faculty member. So that was on a temporary basis for a while, and then became permanent full-time. Oh gosh, probably, this is like a total guess, maybe like 4 years ago. So I've been around for a while, but permanent for a handful of years.
Okay. And what courses do you typically teach?
Lots. So I always have a number of intro, Psych 110, of lots of varieties. Every once in a while, I get to do a 110 in person, which is really, really nice. But most of the time I'm doing online 110s and short half semester 110s. So really, really accelerated pace intro courses. I also usually am doing Psych 300, which is a psychology of adjustment, which is a really, really fun class.
During you do that in person, or
I'm teaching that one. It's synchronous, but it's still over Zoom. Just COVID. We'll see what the spring looks like. And then during the summer, I usually get to do adolescent development, sometimes child development. It's been a while, but occasionally lifespan development, and then a special topics here and there. So currently human sexuality, which is really, really fun. And then a couple of summers ago, I did at-risk youth, which was also really fun. Co-teaching with Dr. Janice in the criminal justice department.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us a little bit about what you do with that counseling.
So in the past, I've done a whole bunch of stuff too. For a while, I was doing a 12-step recovery program for middle schoolers and high schoolers. So did that for a number of years. I also spent some time doing psychological assessments with Dr. Greenway and his practice.
I remember that.
Yeah, a couple of years over at Tyler, just doing assessments with the adolescents, which was, talk about, I don't know, I learned so much doing that over at our community mental health. I also, I've done some individual counseling, but for some reason that hasn't been my focus or what's kind of worked out for me. So most of what I've done in the counseling world has been a lot of parent education. So I've done a whole lot of parenting classes for folks in the community. Some of them like court or CPS mandated, and others of them just voluntarily signing up for parenting classes. A whole lot of mental health and also case management for a program called Healthy Start, which is for women who are pregnant and until that baby turns 18 months old. So lots of perinatal mental health work. And then my favorite stuff is the parenting work that I do in our jail. So doing parenting classes with incarcerated men and women. It's a voluntary class, so I always get a fabulous group of people. In an ideal world, that would include visitation with their kids, which is the only contact visitation that exists in the jail at all. So that's a really, really big deal. And then that program has we've got a little offshoot, I guess, through a federal grant where we're doing case management and mentorship for young incarcerated mothers for the year after they're released to hopefully reduce recidivism and keep them from going back. So lots of parenting, lots of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people. That's the stuff.
And do you work with an organization that sort of manages all that?
Yes, I do. So yeah, the sheriff's office with the program in the jail, the sheriff's office had a contract with the Family Tree, which is a nonprofit here in Lafayette for, oh gosh, 20 something years. That contract existed. And so the Family Tree is also where I'm doing the grant work for the additional grant program as well. So I've kind of been at the tree, I think my whole time. Yeah, 11 years I've been with Family Tree doing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And is that a place that students could volunteer and get involved in doing some of the work that you're doing? And
yes, so the Family Tree has tons of different programs. Most of them are centered around family in some way, improving the lives of families. So lots of psychoeducational classes. There's a lot of counseling that goes on. The Healthy Start program is huge and lots of opportunities, especially for students. We usually get a lot of child and family studies students, but psychology is absolutely welcome to like shadow in the Healthy Start program. And that's another program as well that takes bachelor's level employees. So it's a really nice helping centered job that's available at a bachelor's level with psychology, which is really, really nice. Some of the stuff at Family Tree, just by nature of it being mental health, with the confidentiality, it's a little bit harder sometimes for students to get, you can't come in and like be a counselor, unfortunately, but there's always, there's ways to get involved, whether that's like fundraising, working in the office, you learn a lot about mental health, just in interacting with people. So it's one of those agencies where like, if you have an idea, if you've got some interest in doing something and you propose it, probably they're going to say yes, because they like to help people. So
So if somebody wanted to get involved, could they contact you?
Absolutely. They can always reach out to me with my UL email address. You can reach out to Family Tree directly if you'd like to at their website. You can call, you can stop by, let them know you heard about it from me, and we'll get you all hooked up.
There you go. That's excellent. Is there any research that you've been doing that you'd like to talk about?
So I don't have a lab. I don't do research myself, but I do. I love research. It's really, really important. And I get good ideas sometimes, I think. So I've been able to partner up and do some research with Dr. Lynn and her lab, looking at parenting attitudes, empathy, and ACE scores. And we're really looking at like intergenerational ACE scores and parenting attitudes. So the ideal, what we're working towards is we would love to get like 3 generations of data and see if there's something going on there with ACEs and parenting attitudes. And then once we have like a good community sample, the next step then is to go into the jail and see if there's some kind of significant difference between, we would imagine, more ACEs and maybe less parenting competence in the incarcerated community, and kind of looking at like how, if and how that that might be part of that like generational trauma being passed down. That we know, kids that grow up with incarcerated parents are more likely to end up in the system themselves as adults. So trying to kind of look at it from an ACEs point of view. So we've done a little of that. And then Dr. Janice in criminal justice, she and I do some stuff as well. We have a project we're working on adding a couple more details for the IRB, but looking at parenting beliefs pre-COVID and during COVID, and seeing if in the incarcerated population, we would imagine incarcerated parents might feel a little more stressed, a little less competent, and probably have less contact overall with their kids. And so that's one of the things we're wanting to look at. So we'll keep you tuned and see what we find out.
That's always a good idea. I remember also that you were very interested in the issue of breastfeeding.
Yes, part of my my interest in motherhood, parenting, and whatnot. So yeah, and I know you have quite a bit of breastfeeding research, and I was really excited to hear Dr. Charles is getting into doing some breastfeeding in the workplace research as well. So definitely some interests of mine.
Do you do any work with helping mothers to be better breastfeeders?
So that is part of what we do in the parenting programs. That's a part of it, especially with the young mothers. We know. And I have some training as a community breastfeeding educator. So I was trained by the Healthy Children Project, which does really, really good stuff in the community, like countrywide. So we know that women of color, the breastfeeding, just initiating breastfeeding is much less common in communities of color, and continuing to breastfeed. So even to the 6 weeks mark, much lower rates in women of color, but generally, not surprisingly, Louisiana doesn't do well with breastfeeding rates overall. So
no, they don't come anywhere close to what the pediatric community suggests.
No, and people are shocked when they find out that, the WHO and the CDC recommend breastfeeding for 2 years, at least 6 months, but all the way to 2 years. So, yeah, it's
the
definitely.
American Pediatric Association says 1 year and 6 months of nothing but breast milk.
Yes.
People are shocked to find that out.
Yeah. And I know
that is what seems to help.
Yeah, there's some newer research now that starting, not solid food, but starting like puree food at 4 months is becoming the new recommendation, but it's definitely not a mandate. And some babies just aren't ready. So
it's true. Yeah. And a lot of parents are trying to put their kids on baby food at 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And and then they get a lot of spit up because their little tummies aren't ready.
Yes, and there's still a lot of myths about like adding rice cereal to the bottle because it'll make your baby sleep longer. And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
busting those myths is a big part of what I do. And
Good.
it's surprising too, it's for some people, it's surprising that even talking about this with the dads in the parenting group and getting dads on board, that like you want to support your partner in breastfeeding because look, this is what breastfeeding does, and don't we all want that for our babies? So
Yes, better health is always a good thing. Fewer
yes,
food allergies is always a good thing.
yes, that was a big part of it for me, just personally too, with a history of asthma, and my brother has really severe food allergies. Kind of what led me to get really into learning about breastfeeding for my own kids was trying to
Mhm.
prevent some of those common familial things we have going on too.
Yeah, there's even some evidence that suggests that breastfeeding prevents diabetes later in life and
Yeah.
obesity. Isn't
Yep.
that amazing? So there's a lot there. I'm sorry, I don't want to kind of get into that, but thank you so much for talking with us. It's been a really
Yeah.
wonderful interview. And I hope that we can do something like this again later when and update these profiles, because it's been such fun to hear from different faculty about what they're doing.
I bet it was really, really fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.